Hello and welcome to another edition of 10 Count for UCN Live. I'm Michael Montero, joined by the editor of Ring TV, Doug Fisher, and K2 Promotions, Tom Loeffler. Tom, let's talk about your signature client, one Triple G Gennady Golovkin. He has a fight scheduled against Dominic Wade on April 23rd at the Forum. Let's clear the air on this because I think there's been some confusion among boxing fans. This counts as his IBF mandatory, correct?
Well, this was ordered by the IBF. When he beat David Lemieux in October at Madison Square Garden, he inherited the IBF mandatory obligation. And the only way we'd be able to get out of that is either to do a unification fight, which obviously reached out to both other champions, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, or if there is an extraordinary other type of fight. So Toriano Johnson was the mandatory. He won that position by beating O'Kane on the show. And he unfortunately was injured, and so Wade, being undefeated and having just defeated Sam Solomon, he's the number 3, the highest rated available contender. So we're obligated, or Gennady's obligated to fight Dominic Wade. And if he wants to keep the IBF title,
right? Of course,
which doesn't make any sense.
All about the titles.
You just beat Lemieux and then you get stripped. Doesn't make sense. And the IBF is the organization, like we saw with Tyson Fury. He had to sign the rematch clause with Vladimir, and they're very strict on their rules.
They will yank that belt.
They stripped Tyson Fury of the title.
They actually follow their rules.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Tom, had you been able to make a unification bout with Billy Joe Saunders, that would have been a big fight in the UK. Obviously, a fight with Canelo, it's the kind of matchup that sells itself. When you have to fight a guy like Dominic Wade, who is not well known, even within the boxing universe. He's really kind of a prospect. He was a good U.S. amateur, tall, rangy dude. He's got speed. He's got a lot of heart. I like Wade. I'm not trying to diss Wade, but it's not a fight that people were clamoring for Triple G to take on. As a promoter, how do you sell that as an attraction? How do you fill the Forum in Inglewood, California?
Well, Gennady's at the point, because of all the foundation that we built for him, selling tickets in New York, then his ticket selling ability here in the States with the StubHub show, and then the Forum last year, where as long as there's a credible fighter that's in front of him, that's all we need. And Dominic Wade is actually, he was a 4-time amateur national champion. He is well known on the East Coast as far as like in the DC area.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's out of the Beltway.
And he's undefeated, and he's young. He's 25 years old. He's the same age as Canelo. So there's a lot of parallels there. And I think the real boxing fans understand that this is an obligation that Gennady has to fulfill. And whenever Manuel Stewart told me a long time ago, when he was training Vladimir, he's like, whenever you have an undefeated challenger, you never know how good they are because they've never lost. So until they lose, that's when you can kind of judge what level they're at. And
would you say Triple G is at the point, at least here in Southern California, where people are going to buy tickets just to go to the big drama show, just to see Gennady Golovkin?
Fortunately, we were able to build him, and he always delivers in the ring, where he's at that level, where we had the pre-sale starting 3 days ago, and we sold over 5,000 tickets now.
Really? So
it's an exciting...
On track to selling it out? Because you guys did over 12,000, for Monroe Jr.
Monroe, yeah, we're about 4 times where we're at for the Monroe fight, yeah. So
that says it all.
This is on track like we were at the StubHub Center, where it sold out a month before the fight.
Right.
So whoever wants to go see Triple G and Chocolatito fight.
Right. I was going to bring up Roman Gonzalez, the flyweight champ. How important is it to pair Golovkin with Gonzalez in terms of the televised show?
I always feel, you can't always put those great combinations together, but whenever you can put Chocolatito, and when he fought at the Forum last year, a lot of people didn't really know who he was. The hardcore, boxing fans knew who he was, and naturally, the media that follow the sport, as being a 2-time world champion.
I knew who he was.
As far as, I was referencing that you knew who he was. But, now he's just really captured everyone's imagination. I mean, after the fight at the Forum, he skyrocketed to the top of the number 1 in pound-for-pound ratings, and he had the great performance against Valoria.
He had fans at Madison Square Garden as well.
There was a lot of Nicaraguan flags there, and with each fight, now this being his 3rd fight on the same show with Gennady, I know he's bringing a lot of his own fans to the fight as well. So we're excited about that pairing.
If you can't get Canelo Alvarez next, assuming everything goes right with Wade, the fight fans want to see, of course, and it's supposed to be mandated by the WBC, is with Canelo Alvarez. But if that falls through, is there a chance you guys might try to reach out to one of the other champions? What's it going to take to try to get one of those guys in the ring? And then let's talk about some names like Erislandy Lara. I know maybe we should clear the air on that because there's a lot of chatter on Twitter that he's been calling Triple G out. Care to elaborate on some of that?
Well, Mike, as you said, the priority is clearly Canelo. A fight between Gennady, if everything goes the right way, in April, because he's got to beat Amir Khan as well. But a fight between Canelo and Gennady would be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing.
How do you feel about that right now? Like, if you were a betting man, or
well,
percentage-wise, like, I mean, how sure are you of if Canelo beats Khan on May 7th,
sure.
and most expect him to? But yeah, there's a lot of skepticism in the boxing world on whether or not you guys can get Golden Boy and Team Canelo to agree to a fight before the end of 2016. How sure do you feel about a Triple G Canelo fight happening in September, October, November 2016?
Well, the mandate from the WBC, and part of it was to allow both guys to take a voluntary defense. Part of it was strategically from our side, the reason why we agreed to that. Sure, we would have loved to have fought Canelo May 7th, but part of that is that it's an ironclad written agreement signed by all parties, including the WBC, that, Gennady has to agree to fight the winner of Canelo and Khan. And then Canelo Khan has to fight the winner of Gennady and Wade. So I can't speak for the Canelo side or the Golden Boy side. I have a great relationship with Oscar and Eric Gomez. We did a fantastic promotion with Lemieux. It was a very good cohesive promotion. But from our side, that's the fight we're looking at. And if Canelo doesn't fight Gennady in his next fight, or the winner of Canelo or Khan, they get stripped. So slowly we're collecting titles. He had
is
the
there
IBF
a date
title.
set? Is there a certain amount of months that where you have
It
to?
says the next fight. It says the next fight. So Canelo
so it could be
couldn't
a
fight
year
anyone.
from now. If there was an injury,
no,
or
that's not
something
true
like
because
that.
because you have to start the negotiations. So it follows the WBC rules. They have 15 days to agree whether they're actually going to fight the winner of the winners of both fights. They have 15 days to agree to fight each other. If one of those parties doesn't agree, they automatically lose their status. Either Gennady would lose his interim status or Canelo would lose his championship status. And then we have 30 days to negotiate. And then if we can't come to agreement, it goes to a purse bid. So it's all by the WBC. It's all structured by their rules. And then the splits, by the rules. The weight is by
it's
the
all
rules.
mandated. So assuming the WBC follows the rules, that would be the next fight. But again, if it doesn't happen, I just want to talk about Erislandy Lara because there has been chatter on Twitter. I've seen it. He's been pretty adamant with some of his tweets.
I don't know why. I don't get it.
I don't. Let's let Tom break this one down.
Show us in the Canelo fight or against Alfredo Angulo that gives anybody confidence?
I wouldn't be doing my job if I.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Let's clear the air on that.
Yeah, I want to hear what Tom has to say.
I've seen whoever runs his Twitter account certainly seems pretty active trying to call out.
Because they haven't talked to you directly.
So I don't know.
I want to know who from Lara's
has
side
a contract
called
been
you up
sent
or
to you?
emailed you.
Have you received papers?
I haven't seen any type of offers, and I know Louis DeCubas Jr. and we have a relationship. It's just but it just to go back to the fundamental question.
No emails.
No,
hey Tom,
nothing.
What do you say about
there you go, guys. So that's a dead issue. Let's put that to bed.
No text, no direct messages on Twitter.
I'm just getting beat up on Twitter about that one.
No, there's absolutely no communication from their side. But you just realistically, if you try to put that fight together, it just doesn't make sense. If Gennady's focus is to unify the titles, then you have Lara. There's nothing against Lara. Lara's a great fighter. He's competitive. It's just, it's kind of like Andre Ward's syndrome, where he's not a marketable fighter. We've never, whenever Abe was critical of Andre, it was never about his skills, about what he could do in the ring. It's just like he wasn't bringing that market value for Gennady to say, okay, let's go and fight that guy. Froch would sell a lot of tickets in the UK, 80,000 tickets. He'd bring pay-per-views. Chavez.
And that would make it worth it to go up to 68, right?
To go up to 68.
Another fight,
or to go to the UK.
Another fight that's been brought up, and maybe you could clear the air on this too, that is possibly with Hopkins, and that would be at 68. Is that a possibility if something with Canelo falls through, or is that just kind of just internet chatter?
No, I got to give Bernard a lot of credit. I mean, he was serious about at least looking into the possibility of fighting Gennady. You know, if Gennady would fight Bernard. I mean, Bernard's a legend in the sport. You know, he holds the record of 20 middleweight title defenses. I mean, you know what he's accomplished. You know, in the ring. I was there when he knocked out Felix Trinidad at Madison Square Garden, and you know when he beat Oscar. So he has some you know fantastic wins, and arguably that's Kovalev's biggest win of his career at 175
absolutely.
pounds. So you know for Gennady to be a smaller guy to fight a guy like Bernard, that's a fight I could see happening if it captures the imagination of the sports world. But still, you know, going back to the fundamental point, the focus is on Canelo to win the WBC title. Then the focus, this is what I'd explained to Rock Nation when they sent the offer for Ward, which, by the way, for whoever you know doubts it, that came after we announced the Lemieux fight. So
funny how that works.
That was
right?
that was another
timing.
situation. Yeah. But and then we'd go after Billy Joe Saunders. So I mean that's the whole. I don't know why it's so confusing to people. Like you know, it always used to be. You know, if you fought other champions in your division, that's what the whole focus would be. Naturally, a fight with Floyd came up somehow, or a fight, you know, with with Canelo or whoever. That's the priority. But other than that, you know, he wants to unify the division, and once he does, and he proves, I mean, Canelo is still listed as the lineal middleweight champion.
Right.
So
he has a major belt. He recognizes the Ring Magazine middleweight champion.
Right.
He has the WBC belt.
Right.
I'm going to throw a name out there that's also been out there in the Twitterverse. Because you guys are fighting Wade, who is advised by Al Heyman,
Right.
people are starting to think, well, okay, Daniel Jacobs is one of the top middleweights in the world. He just is coming off an explosive performance against Kid Chocolate. He has like the JV version of the WBA title, the regular title, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts as part of Gennady's unification plans, but is that a fight that you guys have thought about that you believe could be possible? Maybe not this year, but even like next year.
I think it's possible from the standpoint, you know, opposite to Lara. I think, you know, with his win, with his knockout over Kid Chocolate, over Peter Quillen,
made a
statement in the first round, and made a huge statement. And when you get Gennady, who sold out Madison Square Garden, versus someone like
Brooklyn native,
like Danny Jacobs,
in New York.
native from. I mean, that's a huge fight in New York, and I could absolutely see that happening. And you know, I've always had a good relationship with Al, and you know, we did the fight with Tom Brown for this one with Wade. So the money is there, and it could make sense, and it would be a great fight for Jacobs, because you know, to prove that you know he's going to fight the best in the division, and it's a big test for Gennady with his punching power that he displayed against Quillen.
How do you guys work out the network situation? Because Golovkin has an exclusive contract with HBO, and Al Heyman, of course, is very tight with Showtime, and he has all those other PBC network platforms.
I mean, that would be. I mean, that's something that
would that be the biggest sticking point, maybe?
You know, we haven't even gotten to that point where it even makes sense. That's
when you start talking about boxing on Twitter, it's all speculative and way in the future, and you know.
Look, the way I look at it is, if Gennady if he fights Canelo or he gets the WBC title, now he's got 3 out of the 4 titles. Now you can go to Saunders and say, okay, I got 3 titles, you have 1 title. You know, you have a lot more to win by beating Golovkin than he has to beating you, and then the same thing with Danny Jacobs. So I think he brings a lot of leverage with him, plus his ticket selling ability, which is very. I mean, besides Canelo, I think, and Manny, Gennady is the 3rd highest ticket seller here in the United States.
On both coasts. And is it that the titles are bargaining chips? I think that's something a lot of fans may not realize, is getting those titles is a way for Gennady to get the bigger fights down the road, right? That's part of the strategy.
That's how Bernard Hopkins did it.
Exactly.
He wasn't going to get Oscar De La Hoya without being the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. You know what I mean? Without having all the 3 major titles.
Bernard fought at middleweight for 16 years, I want to say, before he moved up. And I think a lot of people have short memories. They forget about that. Gennady's been in the scene for only about 3 years, and he's still building up his name. Yeah, people talk about Andre Ward.
He needed the Super 6, though, where he fought all the top super middleweight contenders,
unified titles with Froch.
Right.
But one thing I hear from the detractors is, oh, well, you're willing to go to 168 for Froch or even for Hopkins, but you want 164 against Andre Ward. Can you
Let me
explain
clarify that 164 statement. That was just that was in a random email to Dan Rafael. It was actually talking about Vladimir Klitschko's purse bid that was in Panama. So it wasn't even anything factual. Like we were going to assist on this. There was never any negotiations for a weight with Andre Ward. Yeah. So it never even got to that point. And like I said, when they sent the offer over, we were already committed to a David Lemieux fight. And my response was, let's see how the Lemieux fight goes. Let's see if we can then, then he was supposed to fight the winner of Cotto Canelo, which is obviously a much bigger fight than the Andre Ward fight. Right. So why would we commit to a fight like that back then? And then Andre got injured again for whatever the date was, November. So it just, the whole thing wasn't really realistic.
But the way Dan Rafael posed the Triple G versus Ward question to you was speculative. Right. He was saying, what would it take for you to make?
It wasn't even a question. I was just,
It was an email. In this age of social media, man, these things get turned into it, and suddenly it became, there's a catch
Twitter,
rate.
we'll only fight at 164. But but to get back to your fundamental question, and what a lot of fans don't realize is, look, Gennady's a middleweight. He's a small middleweight. He comes in at 159. Right. If he was struggling, he'd come in at 159.99.
It's not like he's a 23-year-old coming in at that weight.
Right.
He's
he's not somebody who's walking around at 180 either.
And it's like a yo-yo. It's like, okay, go down to fight Floyd, go up to fight Ward. It's like he's a middleweight. So if he's going to move out of his division, like I said, we have to give Carl Froch a lot of respect. He sold out Wembley Stadium, which is very rare. He can sell UK pay-per-view, and the same thing. When we're talking about Chavez back then, when he was with Top Rank, I mean, they were guaranteeing him like $7 million, and it would have been that would have been a launching pad for Gennady on pay-per-view. But outside of that, there's no reason why would he go up to fight at 168 just to fight at 168. It's like Floyd. Floyd moved up to fight Canelo because that was a monster fight. He didn't move up to fight Lara.
Canelo brought a
Why would he do that?
Canelo brought a fan base, just as Miguel Cotto did.
And look, just the Canelo fight was at a catch weight.
Those are the times that he stepped up from welterweight to junior
And they also drained Canelo a couple pounds. People forget about that. It wasn't a full junior middleweight fight.
There's an interesting pictures I saw a couple days ago on Twitter where it showed Canelo when he fought Floyd at
I saw that.
22 years old, and now 25. I mean, he's like a completely different person.
Grown man, yeah.
Grown man, and I think that's a great fight, with Canelo.
Let's move up the weight scale to heavyweight and talk about Vladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury real quick. The rematch. There's a contractually obligated rematch. Fury dumped the IBF belt to go for the more lucrative rematch,
He didn't dump it, but he was obligated to do the rematch, so they stripped him. But
So that's not signed yet. There's no location. There's no date. Are you guys getting closer to that, or?
The rematch is signed, but the actual date or location is not. So we're going. There's a lot of variables involved because first you have the ticket sales, then you have the UK pay-per-view, which is expected to be very big for that. Then you have the German television with RTL. Then you have HBO. So you have all these factors involved, and you have to maximize the revenues in each area. So. And then you have the German soccer season starting, not the season, but as far as the championship series starting in the summertime too. So it's kind of limited to what the locations are. But
it will be Germany, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be Germany. It could either be UK, it could be Germany. I mean, we had a huge response the last time when they fought. So it just depends on where it winds up and on what date. But I think within the next couple of weeks we'll see that kind of firm up.
Okay, sounds good.
You don't want to talk about Chocolatito? Chocolatito and the number one pound for pound fighter.
Just real quickly. He's fighting Arroyo.
Here I was ready to wrap it up.
Who is an excellent flyweight contender. I actually thought Arroyo beat the guy from Thailand.
The guy from Thailand, that's his name.
Yeah, the guy. Well, it's easier to pronounce. Yeah,
I worked very hard on that one.
I'm not pronouncing it correctly, so I'm going to call him the guy from Thailand. Difficult fighter.
The IBF champion now.
Yeah, but Arroyo, a terrific Puerto Rican contender.
McWilliams Arroyo.
That should be a competitive fight. If Chocolatito gets past Arroyo, how realistic is a rematch with Juan Estrada? A lot of hardcore fans, a lot of Mexican fans, a lot of Chocolatito fans are wondering about that fight and the possibility of it happening in 2016.
First on Arroyo, he was an Olympian for Puerto Rico. He actually carried the flag, which is a huge honor for him, for the country. He was an amateur world champion, and arguably there's a lot of people that think he beat the guy from Thailand.
I'm one of them.
The IBF champion. So a lot of people are saying, when we made that match, and I did, try to make the best matches on, when we have the flexibility. A lot of people are saying it's a much tougher fight than Brian Viloria. And you saw how greatly conditioned Brian came in, and he was really trying to, show everything in Madison Square Garden. It's just Chocolatito has that extra gear, that makes him, the top pound for pound fighter. But to get to the question with Estrada, I mean, people have been clamoring for that rematch, and so if he is successful in April and the HBO ratings justify it, then I've been really pushing them that look, he's been on as a co-feature 3 times. Now he deserves to have his main, the main event.
That's a main event.
And we'd bring him back here. It'd be like a tribute to where Chiquita Gonzalez fought against Michael Carbajal.
Yes.
At the Forum. So it would just be natural to bring him back. And
their first fight was in LA. It was at the Sports Arena.
Right.
That's right.
The first fight of
I think
Estrada.
it was Chocolatito's first fight in LA.
Well, it's I think a second fight in California. Oh yeah, first fight in LA, and I tell you what, there will be a lot more fans to see the rematch.
Come there,
Yeah, it's the way that Golovkin's trying to get all the titles at middleweight, the way Klitschko did at heavyweight. Is that what Chocolatito's trying to do at flyweight? Because this fight with Estrada, if it could happen, that would unify, I believe, 3 of the titles.
Yeah, Estrada has 2 titles. That's another interesting point. Is after Chocolatito beat him, Estrada actually won 2 titles at the flyweight division. So that's going to be a tremendous fight if he gets by Arroyo. Arroyo is a very tough fighter, and we've got a great response for the pairing with Gennady and Chocolatito. But I think Chocolatito's at the point now where he can carry, sell his own tickets and carry his own show.
And that's something you're going to push the good folks at HBO
I've been pushing my good friend Peter Nelson.
Your good friend Peter Nelson.
At HBO already.
Chocolatito Estrada rematch, late 2016 in Los Angeles, or the greater Los Angeles area. You're a good man, Tom.
That's the plan.
All right.
You're a good promoter.
Knock on wood that happens. Well, there you go, fight fans. On behalf of Tom Loeffler and Doug Fisher for UCN Live, I'm Michael Montero. We'll see you next time on 10 Count.